All right. So memory, living with yesterday. When it comes to memory, it's very important that you do 3 steps. If you do not complete these 3 steps, memory will not occur. Okay? The first one is encoding. Encoding literally means to engrave. Encoding means to engrave. If I go to a stitchery shop and I get my name embroidered onto my shirt, what will that machine do as it's embroidering? What will it do? What's the embroidery work look like? It just keeps going over and over and over again. That's encoding. Going over it and over and over again so that it engraves. That's your encoding. Going over and over again to engrave. Bless you. Once I encode, I must store. Storage. Once I encode, I must store. Storage means to retain the information. I must hold on to it. Okay, I first have to go over it, then I have to store it. I must hold on to it. Okay, once I store it, I can then retrieve it, go back and get it. Once I store it, I can retrieve it, which means I can go back and get it. Does this make sense? Pretty simple, correct? So what happens to you in regards to psychology? Are you encoding?
Yes.
Are you storing?
No. You have to. Right, you have to go over it. And then what I do is I have to follow it.
So this is what your brain looks like.
Would a client kind of go with encoding?
Because once I have done this, I can now actually store it. So your brain is a bunch of file cabinets. Okay? Each file cabinet has a different label. Each file cabinet contains information. So as you're encoding, you should be placing everything here. Yes? So that when you take the test and the screen says psychology, your brain knows, find what file cabinet, so that I can retrieve. But guess what happens to some of you? Because right now, a whole lot of file cabinets are open. So you're not just paying attention to what I'm saying because you're thinking about what comes on tonight, what you got to do before you just get here. That math test is about to come up. Did I do any of them terminology assignments that she has? Palmer wants another paper. I haven't even did part of the research for the first paper. I wonder if they put me on a schedule. So as I'm talking to you, you're just doing this. So when you go take the test and the screen says psychology, what folder opens up? This one. But where's all your information? Everywhere. So you sit there and you go, I know this. I know this. And your brain at that point now goes haywire because it's going through all of these cabinets, but you only got 90 minutes. And you're going, and as soon as the test is over, all of a sudden your brain says, I found it. And you're like, doggone it. Why? Because it's filed everywhere. You've encoded it, but where you stored it is all over the place. When you're watching TV, how well is your attention span watching TV? To the commercial. Which is why I can ask you everything that happened and you can do what? Why? Because you focused. What other folders were open? None. So oftentimes the reason why you don't remember things is because you've misplaced it. This is also why you get that moment where you're in the car and you're like, ding, the brain said, I found it. And you're like, I was looking for that 3 days ago. It's got a lot of stuff. This folder right here is huge. This life folder contains so much. So if it has to go through this folder, it might take a very long time to find it. It might not find it. Does that make sense? So you first have to practice it. You then have to store it in the correct place. Then you can retrieve it.
So how about you have those people that just look at it and
Your brain will automatically remember everything that's happened in your life.
they can retrieve faster?
If you ever watch something for a long period of time or just stare at it, your brain is going to take a mental image of it anyway. Because have you ever had a test and you look and you're like, I don't know where it is, but I know it's a picture on that page. Right in the corner, it's got some picture of it's green or something. You can't recall, but you know your mind has already taken an image. The same if you meet somebody. How many of you gone to a grocery store over and over and you see the cashier at another store and you're like, I know her from somewhere. Your brain took a picture. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, the whole idea of the brain, we look at memory in two different ways. Duration is how long you can hold memory. Capacity is how much you can hold. Duration, how long you can hold memory. Capacity is how much you can hold. We usually call them units. So you'll hear me say duration is how long and capacity is how many units. Duration is how long you can hold memory. Capacity is how much. The reason we look at memory this way is because we divide memory into 3 different types of memory. Okay, there's 3 different types of memory, and all 3 have a different duration and a different capacity. All right, so we look at memory in 3 separate ways: sensory, short-term, and long-term. Sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. These are terms you've heard before, correct? Sensory is new. Okay, what do you think sensory memory would be? That's all it is. Memory based on your senses. Have you ever tasted something, don't know what it is, but you can tell yourself, I've tasted this before? You hear a voice and you're like, I've heard that before. Okay, that's all that sensory memory is. It's that first part, it's the sensory part, very short. Okay, duration, typically less than 1 second. After 1 second, it's gone. After 1 second, it's gone. Very quick memory. Capacity, it's very large. It can hold a lot of information. It takes all 5 senses in at one time. Okay, holds a lot of information but for a short period of time.
You say duration, is that like retrieving?
Duration is really how long it's going to hold it before it's forgotten.
Okay, so like what happens if I found something that I've done a long time ago and I remember it?
You switched it over already. So what happens with sensory memory, when you first saw this book, the brain took it. But guess what you keep doing every Tuesday? So now the sensory memory says, we're done, give it to short term. And it switches it over. Short term, you keep doing this. Short term says, we're done, give it to long term. Now, 5 years from now, somebody can show you this book and you're like, oh, I had that book. You haven't seen it in 20 years. I had that book. So literally what happened in that initial one, you've got that first one, but as you keep being exposed to it, you're switching it to the next memory. Good question. Okay, so once I've got sensory memory done, you don't need to know about the experiment. I move to short-term memory. Now, a lot of you study this way. You hold everything in short-term memory, but there's a problem with short-term memory. Short-term memory lasts less than 30 seconds. Short-term memory lasts less than 30 seconds if you do not rehearse it. What does rehearsal mean? Practicing over and over again. Every time you rehearse, you start the 30 seconds over. Every time you rehearse, you start the 30 seconds over. You housing a lot of stuff in short-term memory, Jill? So let's try this. Do not write this down. Okay? Ready? Red, blue, green, yellow, 220. What is it? What is it? What is it? Okay, listen what I need you to do. On the 3rd of the month, you need you to bring 2 red sheets of paper, 5 blue sheets of paper, 3 yellow sheets of paper, and 6 green. I need you to be here at 2:45. Now, if you get here at 3 o'clock, I'll only give you 15 points. But if you're here on time at 2:45, I'll give you 50 points. But if you're late without bringing me those 2 red sheets of paper, then you can't get the points at all. What's the colors? How many sheets of paper do I need you to bring in red? What time do I need you to be here? And if you're late, is it considered what time? And what color do I need you to remember from that list? What's the list? Now, why did you remember it? Because most of you were in your head on the side going red, blue, green, yellow, 220, red, blue, green, yellow, 220. What I said, you probably don't remember too much. Some stuff stuck out because time sticks out even if you don't practice. Okay? The reason why every time you said it over, that 30 seconds repeated. 30 seconds repeated. How many of you remember 411? See? Look at that. I just want y'all to raise your hand. Look at this. This shows you the times.
So if you just look at the clock and you're studying,
What time you wake up this morning?
6:15.
What time you woke up? What time did you guys wake up?
7.
See that's what happens. I woke up at 4:47. Do you think I sat there and looked at the clock and said 4:47, 4:47, remember 4:47, 4:47? The minute you see clock, memory holds it. You could tell me every morning what time you wake up. That's a problem. That goes back to this. That's what the 411. Back in the day, before all y'all got technical, we used to call 411 for a number. It's information.
Another keyword.
So we call information and we say, can I have the number to Brett's house? And they tell me the number. And I start saying the number over and over so that I can hang up and call right away. Then Josh said, what did they say his number was? And I'm like, shut up! Why? Because the minute I start talking to him, one of those digits are going to go. Why? Because it only holds 5 to 9 units. Short-term memory only holds 5 to 9 units. It only has space to hold 9 units. Okay? Once I get more than 9 units, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to drop something. So as he's asking me what's the number, I'm going to be like, thanks. I got to call information back again because I don't remember the last 2 numbers. Why? Because he just replaced it with another unit.
Yeah, now they connect automatically.
Okay? Back in the day, that was a 50-cent charge. Does that make sense? Now, it's called, so what you hear me say sometimes, it's called 7 plus or minus 2. The riddle for short-term memory in regards to the capacity is 7 plus or minus 2. 7 plus or minus 2. When you give out your phone number, do you realize you give it out together sometimes? Why? Because this is 2 units. This is 1 unit. 70, 2 units. I just took up 2 of my spaces. 70, I only took up 1 space.
So if someone said 2650 as the last,
You only got 2 units.
so it's equal to that.
Instead of I said 269, 2650, I just took 4 units. Okay? 1776. I'm just thinking of numbers. How many units is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No possible way. But 1446, 1776, 1982. I remember all of them. Why? Because that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. If I say it individually, I can't hold it here. If I chunk it together, I can. Does that make sense? Which is what we call a process, chunking. Chunk stuff together. Chunking allows you to hold more memory. George Miller is his name, and I probably should have told you at the beginning. George Miller discovered this whole function of short-term, long-term memory.
I mean, down to the numbers?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Short-term memory. If I chunk it together, we've got it. You're going to learn, if we go back, let's go back. If we go back to Atkins and Shiffrin were the one who designed the entire model. Okay, then you have people come through and say, let's fine tune these, and we got this whole idea of chunking and things like this. Chunking is really important. And I'm gonna tell you another thing about short-term memory. Short-term memory likes stupid stuff. Okay, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. How many of you got an Aunt Sally?
I do. My grade
One person has an Aunt Sally, but why do you guys remember that? Man, say remember it because it's stupid. Okay, they got a song. Anything that you put to music, the brain will hold it. Short-term memory holds it even faster. Okay, they're called mnemonics.
Well, what do you call that though, if I'm getting up out of one room and I'm going to another room for something, and I get in that room and I completely.
That's called forgot. So what happens when you forget? We've all done it, Jill, so don't worry. You know how you go? You go and you say, go into the room and grab your purse. Let's just say, well, purse wallet. You get into the room and you're like,
Yeah.
what was I supposed to get? What you are now starting to do is try to prime yourself. Priming means to poke your memory. So you look at stuff. What was it that what I was supposed to get? Then you start to go back. I was standing at the door. I was about to leave and I realized I didn't have my purse. I'm looking for my purse. You're priming.
For some people faster than that than others.
Some people, memory's just good. As we keep going, you'll find out there's a reason why people forget. There's some things that literally stop or make and cause forgetting. But in regards to chunking together, you learn, make a riddle out of it. Northwest, north, east, southwest. How'd you learn that?
Never eat sour.
Yeah, some people say never eat soggy waffles. Never eat shredded wheat. Why? It's stupid. So you remember it. How many play an instrument? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, and then you have every good boy does fine. How do I learn a line? Every good boy does fine. Okay, it's stupid. The brain likes stupid. So when you do psychology, make a riddle out of some of this stuff. Short term, long term. You got sensory, short term, long term. SSL. I'm trying to think of something stupid. Sing songs loud. Sing songs loud now. Watch how long that stays with you. Sing songs loud. So what's the order of memory? See, learn something stupid. Watch it. I'm going to show you how easy this would have been. Unconditioned stimulus, unconditioned response, conditioned stimulus, conditioned response. So we got what? Let's say unconditioned stimulus, unconditioned response, conditioned stimulus, conditioned response. So, us, your cat sucks chocolate raisins. Us and your cat sucks chocolate raisins.
Yeah, but this would be easy to remember, just remembering what we're thinking.
Anything you need to remember, put it to a riddle. All of those founders in the back in the day in chapter 1, if you have stuck it to something stupid, you would have knew them all.
You said there was a song for it, right?
There's on to you. I'll upload a couple of them in your extra junk folder. Okay? That's your memory. We're going to stop here on